So, some good news. Finally had a good night's sleep for once this week. Ended up going to sleep still late, woke up a little bit late, but I woke up not tired and exhausted, and that is awesome because I've been in a pretty good mood all day. So, yeah, hopefully I can try and fix the cycle. So, yeah, get pause YouTube. How's it going, guys? Happy y'all. Today, my Clash of Kings Week 6 match. We are taking on Phil Nilsson. I think that's how you pronounce his name. It is my team, the 511s, against Talonflame, greater than Ho-Oh, I'm pretty sure is what their team name is, if I'm not mistaken. If not, then it'll be in the title and the thumbnail. So yeah, but that's what I think their team name is. Currently in the standings, we, the 511s, are number 1 and the Talonflames are currently number 2. Now this is a very important game because this could kind of set the tone for who gets a bye week in the first round of playoffs. So hopefully we can try to win this week. Currently this is going to be game number 4, if I'm not mistaken. So we are currently 2-1 against the Talonflames. So we're up to they won one of the Little Cup games, we won a Little Cup game, and then we won one of our OU games. So yeah, this is going to be the second OU game so far in the series, which I know, again, playing OU, but I think at this point I'm pretty much going to be stuck on OU because Lejon probably does better in lower tier anyways, and we'd rather keep him there. We can use his strengths. Plus, I don't mind playing standard. It's just I would much rather play lower tier, but it is what it is. So yeah, hopefully we can take a victory here, but let's take a look at the team and preview. Of course, time skip for you guys to go jump right to the battle. So quickly looking at the team here, I decided to use our Zeraora Rain team, and we are facing Phil, who has Mega Alakazam. Now, fun fact, Mega Alakazam absolutely murders Rain, and that's actually very problematic because it can trace the Swift Swim from Swampert and Kingdra, and then basically outspeed the entirety of our draft. So yeah, I need to be very careful around the Mega Alakazam, and I'm pretty much forced to bring Drapion, honestly, just for Mega Zam, because otherwise not much of my team really wants to deal with it, especially because it can trace the Swift Swim again, it can trace Regenerator from Tornadus, which is also very, very annoying, and then I can't even hit it with a stab move with my Zeraora because it can trace Volt Absorb. So yeah, that's a giant problem. Landorus is only really an issue going into this game if it is going to be running Rock Polish potentially. Besides that, I am absolutely terrified of Vileplume because of what happened earlier in our season where my boy Lejon faced Vileplume back-to-back weeks and he got destroyed by Vileplume, and that was with him bringing the Rain team too. So I'm a little bit terrified of Vileplume, honestly, going into this battle. Snorlax could also be a giant problem just because we don't have anything with fighting moves on our teams, but if I can figure out what set it is, whether it be Sleep Curse Talk or it be Recycle 50% Berry, we should be able to deal with it. Greninja shouldn't be a problem. I don't expect the Cling Clang. Comfey is actually really annoying just because it has priority Draining Kiss and Giga Drain, which also beats both of our Swift Swim Mons, so I definitely expect that to come. And as a hazard removal, it's either between that or Defog Landers, and I really don't think it's going to bring Defog Landers. And then Infernape along with Cling Clang are the two mons I really don't expect them to bring to this game because I'm not really concerned about either of them. So with that being said, let's take a look at our first mon here. Of course, we are bringing Rain, obviously, regardless of whether or not he does have the Mega Alakazam. We do have some measurements to deal with it, so hopefully we can get rid of it, and then our Rain Sweepers will be able to put in a little bit of work. But we are rocking a nice defensive Pelipper here. This has enough Spadef bulk to switch into a non-offensive Vileplume Sludge Bomb and then survive that into a Giga Drain if I'm forced to stay in and I have to go straight for a Hurricane. Unfortunately, Hurricane does not quite knock it out, but it does do a hell of a lot of damage, and then the rest of our Vs are just put into our defenses. Dual Stab Roost, U-turn, because I thought about originally having Defog on this, but there is a chance that he may bring Defog instead, so if anything I can just rely on him to get rid of my hazards. So yeah, U-turn is nice for momentum, Dual Stab hits everything, and Roost for longevity. So our next member is going to be Ferrothorn. This basically needs to function as a pivot into a decent majority of his team. Like, this helps me check potentially the Vileplume, Cling Clang, Snorlax, Comfey, even Greninja, and I figure with all that paving and all the damage that it's going to be taking, a 50% berry is actually going to be very helpful because that burst of HP bringing me back up to over 50%, almost to 75%, is going to be very, very handy for Ferrothorn to keep switching in and out, wearing things down, and hopefully getting up entry hazards. Hazard stacking is definitely going to be beneficial in this game because, as I mentioned, I can potentially force force him to defog, or I can just get up all my hazards to wear his team down for our offensive threats in the back. So our next team member here is going to be Drapion, which is more or less kind of my only real switch in to Mega Alakazam. Now, I originally wanted to go Assault Vest Drapion, but my boy Mayo pointed out a very, very scary Mega Alakazam set, which is Barrier Megazam. Now, I know that sounds odd that people would run Barrier or Mega Alakazam, but if you think about it, it is actually a really good way to beat some of its counters that rely on just hitting it on the physical side. So if I was Assault Vest Drapion and he did turn out to be Barrier Alakazam, then he could eventually Barrier up, chew my hits, and beat me 1v1, as where I was going to try and beat him 1v1 with the Assault Vest. So I figured that I could just go max Spadef and max HP to still try and take 2 hits, and then I have Swords Dance in case he is Barrier. I can Swords Dance up along his defense boost, and then we go from there. And that's actually another reason why I have Poison Fang here as opposed to like Poison Jab. Poison Fang has a 50% chance to poison, so getting off a poison on the Mega Alakazam would be very helpful. I guess I can also poison Landorus on a switch in, and Fernape, the Greninja, maybe even Snorlax, so that could come in very, very handy. A knockoff on this is just there as our secondary stab, but most importantly, knockoff is there so we can get rid of the item on Snorlax, because I need to find out if it's running leftovers or if it'll be a 50% bear, because then that way it'll help me deal with it a whole lot easier. So yeah, Drapion is just really here to hopefully deal with Megazam. Once Megazam is gone, then I can just kind of throw this away. And then Whirlwind is just very handy to stop Rock Polish Landers, which I am absolutely terrified of, because late game you can come in Rock Polish. It's faster than my Rain Sweepers in the rain. So yeah, that could definitely clean up. And Whirlwind was the one option that would stop Landorus from just freely setting up on my Drapion, essentially. Like, yeah, I could have put Ice Fang, but it does no damage. I do not speed it, so I can't taunt it, and then Aqua Tail and Rain still is not doing any damage. Whirlwind, I can at least be aggressive by staying in, Whirlwind him out as he boosts. Next off, we have our first offensive threat here, and this is probably honestly the biggest threat to his team. I was thinking of originally bringing Assault Vest, but I decided to settle on Life Orb, because mixed Life Orb Tornadus actually just kind of murders the entirety of Phil's team. Like, there's legitimately nothing on his team that's going to appreciate switching in to 2 hits, let alone 1, honestly. So yeah, this basically OHKOs and 2-hit KOs absolutely everything, and I am all for it. I really didn't feel the need to have like defog or U-turn, because all 4 of these moves already do so much damage to his team, and because the way his speed tiers are, I really don't expect him to be running a max speed Jolly and Fernape, so I just put enough speed to speed creep an Adamant or Modest and Fernape, just because there's literally no reason for him to run a Jolly or Timid Infernape unless he was Scarfed Infernape, which if it is Scarfed, then I don't outspeed him anyway, so I can at least creep a Modest or Adamant variant while still being able to dish out a huge amount of damage. So our first Rain Sweeper here is going to be Substitute 3 attacks Mega Swampert. Because of Sub, this kind of helps me play around Alakazam just a little bit, because behind a Sub, even though yes, he still traces my Swift Swim and will be faster than me, I'm behind a Sub, which means he needs to break my Sub, and then I can potentially knock him out with a Waterfall or Earthquake and then go from there. Earthquake still does a really good check of damage to Vileplume. If I'm able to hazard stack him, then Vileplume won't necessarily be as big of an issue, but if I'm only able to get up rocks or spikes, or if I don't get up any hazards at all, then yeah, Vileplume will be a giant problem, and I really don't want to Ice Punch it, because I just know I'm gonna get affected by the effect spore and either paralyzed or put to sleep, and I really don't want to deal with that. But Substitute is just mainly here because it's a nice way to play around the Mega Alakazam and potentially any Scarfer that he may have. And if Rain is gone and I'm behind a Sub, I can still smack something in the face with this, which is very, very awesome. And then our final team member is going to be Modest Choice Specs Kindra. I was originally very iffy on Modest Specs Kindra, but my boy Mayo pointed a few things out, and this still can actually just kind of murder the entirety of his team. Even physically defensive Vileplume after hazards damage, I think, is 2-hit KO'd by Hydro Pump, which is kind of insane if you think about it, because that's a resisted hit. And then if he's mixed defensive, then Swampert has an easier time knocking him out, and I can still do a lot of damage with Hydro Pump regardless. Ice Beam obviously does murder the Vileplume, and we really didn't need to have Dragon Stab in this game, just because if Vileplume is gone or Vileplume is weakened, I'm going to be clicking water moves anyway, so Hydro Pump and Surf are both really, really handy. We have enough speed to outspeed Megazam if he has not traced our Swiftswim. So yeah, that is our squad, guys. With that being said, let's jump into the battle. Goodbye, YouTube. How's it going, guys? I'm sure y'all might have skipped to this point into the video, so quick little run through of our match here. My team, the 511s, are taking on Talonflame greater than Ho-Oh, and we are currently up 2-1 in this week 6 matchup. If we win this week, we just about guarantee a bye week for the first round of playoffs. So this week is kind of huge, and hopefully we can pull out the victory here. If I win the match, that puts us up 3-1. If we lose, then we go 2-2, and that's when things could get a little bit shaky. So yeah, much like always, I'm just trying not to put my team in a bad position when I play my match here. So we are taking on Phil Nielsen. He is a member of the Talonflames. I think I was originally supposed to take on one of their captains, but he had something come up, so Phil had a substitute in for him, which I am perfectly fine with. But looking here at our team preview, if you guys do enjoy this and you know what to do, hit that thumbs up button, and down below, let me know what you think about weather in draft leagues. Now, obviously, the biggest threats going into this game are going to be the Mega Alakazam, just because Trace can trace my Swiftswim, it can chase regen from Tornadus, and that's very problematic. Snorlax, if it gets boosting, it's going to be a giant issue as well, although I need to find out whether it'll be Rest Talk with Curse or Recycle Curse, and then from there I can kind of deal with it. Landorus is a problem if it rock polishes late game. Greninja and Comfey really shouldn't be that big of an issue, honestly. And then I was really surprised to see that he brought in Fernape, but he didn't bring the Vileplume. And actually, a part of me is a little bit relieved because I was so terrified of Vileplume. Like, it went Mega Alakazam, Vileplume, and then Snorlax, because Vileplume is actually really terrifying with the Flex Spore, and it just about completely stopped my Swampert from ever doing anything. Although I guess Megazam does the same, but I can at least hopefully substitute now, and then behind a sub, I'm not as worried about Megazam with my Swampert. But seeing no Vileplume is really awesome. Although on Fernape, I'm not sure what kind of set he would want to bring on the Infernape, but a part of me is really not too concerned about it. So looking here at our lead matchups, I really was not too sure what I wanted to lead with. I was stuck between either leading Pelipper, Ferrothorn, or Tornadus, because I thought that he could lead Landorus, Greninja, even Infernape, and I figured that maybe Tornadus would be my better of my potential leads, just because if he does lead Greninja, Landorus, or Infernape, he has to think that I'll be faster than him. So I can immediately take advantage of that and then potentially make a switch on my end, or just go straight for an aggressive move expecting him to switch. So that's basically what my thought process is here turn 1, as he actually ends up leading off with the Infernape. I'm not sure if he put subscribe because he has a channel, or he just put it there for you guys. So yeah, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Why not? Help me out here. So yeah, he ends up leading off with the Infernape, as I end up leading off with my Tornadus. Now this is really good for me, although if you guys didn't see the team builder, I am actually not running enough speed on my Tornadus to outspeed a max speed Infernape, but because of speed tiers, there's no reason for him to be max speed, honestly. So he either will be faster than me here because he's Scarfed, or he could just be a pure suicide lead Infernape, which I guess does kind of make sense, just because he can get up hazards and then try to chip something else down on my team. So I figured that I might as well just take the risk here. So I'm going to go straight for the Hurricane just to see what he wants to do. As it turns out that not only am I faster than him, but I'm able to knock him out through the Cobra Berry, and he later told me that he did not expect me to be a Life Orb Tornadus, so he probably thought that I was Assault Vested or maybe like a bulky leftover sets, which, to be fair, Assault Vest was originally what I was going to bring on Tornadus, but Life Orb pretty much just got a KO almost every time it came in. So yeah, make an aggressive play here, and it really turns out to be amazing for me, because now I've gotten rid of the Infernape. I am now up 6-5, and I am in a phenomenal position at this point in the battle, as in comes the Snorlax. Unfortunately, because it's only turn 2, I do not know what this Snorlax is going to do. So I don't know if I want to go for knockoff or go for superpower. If I go for superpower, then I don't knock him out, but I do about 60%, which unfortunately will proc his 50% berry if he is running one of those. But if he is leftovers, then I can do enough damage to the point where I might actually be able to 2-hit KO him with another superpower. But if I go for the knockoff, and he turns out to have the 50% berry, then that is my better play, because getting rid of this thing's 50% berry means that it is not going to be as big of an issue for me to deal with. But if he's leftovers, then that's obviously the worst of my two options here, and I genuinely do not know what kind of Snorlax this is, and I figured that the more scary version of Snorlax will probably be a 50% berry if I do activate it here, because the next turn, since I'm faster than him, I'm not going to be able to stop him from going for the recycle after I hit him one more time. And then if he lives on, well, he's going to live a second hit if I go for superpower regardless. So yeah, ultimately I'm stuck between knockoff or superpower. So I go for the knockoff. Unfortunately, it turns out that he has leftovers, and that is so bad, because this means that he is probably going to be a rest talk variant of Snorlax, which is a little bit annoying. I think I still would have lived a return even if I had gone for the superpower, because I did check the calc. As long as he didn't have any attack investment, I'm pretty sure I did live on a roll. Well, I lived the body slam and I lived return on a roll, so I guess maybe it wasn't that bad that I didn't go for superpower here, because he still would have lived and then he might have knocked me out. But now I know that this thing is leftovers, which means he's definitely going to have curse and rest and most likely the sleep talk, so I need to find some way to not let this thing just freely start setting up against me as he hits me with a return here. Unfortunately, superpower will not quite knock him out, and I don't know, I guess in hindsight, maybe I should have stayed in here with Tornadus, because even if I had gone for superpower, because he didn't go for the return this turn, I would have knocked him out the following turn, and then I would have lived on 10%, which means I still would have had my Tornadus. But then again, if I did stay in and he did feel like being aggressive and going for the return, me losing Tornadus this early on in the battle would have been absolutely horrible for me, just because, as I mentioned, it kind of just comes in and 2 KOs or OHKO is basically everything, and because it is such a giant threat to his team, whether it is or is not in the rain, then I can't afford to lose it this early on. So I figured I can bring in my Ferrothorn, hope that he goes for the return, and then that maybe he'll be fearing that I have Leech Seed, so he won't feel comfortable in staying in, or maybe I'll have Toxic or something if he is not running immunity. But he unfortunately goes straight for the curse, which is kind of bad, just because I'm forced to immediately bring in my Drapion here. I thought he would just go for another curse, but he then reveals to have the Amnesia. Now, this is actually really bad, because I figured that even if he gets curses going and I lose my Drapion here, then I can still bring in Kingdra in the rain. Hydro Pump is going to smack this Snorlax, but now, because not only does he have curse, but he also has Amnesia, this is really problematic, because I know for a fact that this thing is going to get a chance to set up once again later in the battle. My only hope is that I can find some way to force him into a rest, then take advantage of those 2 turns, or just ensure that I do not lose my Drapion ever when this thing decides to go for the rest. Because so long as I have Drapion around and I'm forcing this Snorlax to rest, and I can at least force him out with the Whirlwind, and that's basically what I'm going to do right here in this scenario, is go straight for the Whirlwind, because I have no other play to go for. I could have maybe gone for Swords Dance, but that would have been really dumb on my end, I think, honestly, because he still would have been able to beat me 1v1. So I face out the Snorlax, as in comes the Greninja. He is going to be able to get up 2 layers of spikes on me as I get up my Stealth Rocks, and then a layer of spikes on him. Unfortunately, Snorlax is basically an absolute free switch into my Ferrothorn, because I don't have Leech Seed or Toxic. So I make an aggressive play here into my Tornadus, and I go straight for the superpower. This, I guess, could have been a little bit questionable. Maybe he thought that I wouldn't be aggressive here and immediately go for a superpower, or maybe he thought that I didn't have the superpower, which does kind of make sense. But because he didn't go for an offensive move this turn, what I can do the following turn is hard switch directly into my Drapion, 100% expecting him to go for the rest. And this is amazing, because now with him resting, he doesn't have Sleep Talk, and obviously he doesn't have the Chesto Berry. So what I can do is either try to go for an offensive move just to gain back a little bit of HP, or I can just go immediately for the Whirlwind, so I can at least have 1 free turn of Snorlax sleeping later in the battle that I can try and take advantage of. And ultimately, Whirlwinding here is definitely my better play, as I'm going to be able to force him out here as he burns a turn of rest into the Landorus. Now, this is a little bit bad, just because if this is potentially Rock Polish or Substitute, then it could be a little bit of an issue, but so much of my team is still very healthy, so I'm not sure if he would want to set up this early on in the battle. There's also a chance that this might have just had Stealth Rock, so he could have gone for Rocks this turn. Regardless though, I'm just going to go ahead and bring in my Pelipper just to see what he wants to do here, as unfortunately he misses the Stone Edge. Now, I would have guaranteed lived that Stone Edge, but this is pretty lucky for me, I'm not going to lie, just because he does not have any information on my Pelipper, and he may expect me to potentially be something like Scarf Pelipper, so there's a chance he's not going to stay in here. Regardless though, I don't want to allow him to potentially substitute on me, because if he does sub as I maybe go for U-turn or something like that, then this thing behind the sub could claim a KO, and I really don't want to just freely allow it to pick up a knockout on my team. Plus, if you look at his team, there's not really much he can switch into a rain boosted Scald. Even though I am defensive, I'm still going to be doing decent damage to whatever comes in. As he switches directly into the Alakazam here, I do 43%, which is nice because I am at full HP. I can still live any hit, so I'm going to go for the U-turn here as he turns out to have the recover. Now, I calced it, and there is a chance that this Alakazam could be max HP, and the issue with that is I don't really have anything on my team that could one-shot him. But the best thing that I do have that can be really aggressive against him is my Tornadus. From full HP here, even if he is modest Mega Alakazam, I live one Psychic, and at this range of HP, Hurricane 100% knocks him out. So it's in my best interest to just be aggressive here and go straight for the Hurricane. As he Mega Evolves, turns out to have the barrier, maybe thinking that I would go for the knockoff just because it does hit him on the physical side, and he might have expected me to have the U-turn. I haven't revealed to him that I have U-turn, but him going for barrier honestly was not that bad of a play because it did cover him potentially expecting me to hit him on the physical side. So he ends up living on 2%, and I actually did have a small chance to knock him out with this Hurricane alone. I think it was about a 25% chance for Hurricane to have actually knocked him out at 73%, because he later did show me that he was max HP, but he had no Spadef. So yeah, I had a chance to knock him out there. Unfortunately, he does live, and this is a little bit annoying because now at this range, a Psychic into Life Orb will knock out my Tornadus, but because this Mega Alakazam is such a giant problem to my team, I figured that it's definitely worth me going for a trade here, because even if I lose my Tornadus, with this Alakazam gone, that means I don't really have anything to fear with my Swampert or my Kingdra. The only issue would be his Comfey, but even then, Kingdra from full HP lives a non-+1 Life Orb modest Draining Kiss, and then if I can get up a sub with Swampert, which I could probably do on his Snorlax potentially, then behind a sub, I don't need to be worried about Comfey regardless. So I figured that I'm just going to be aggressive here. I'm going to go straight for the Hurricane. If you look at what he has left, nothing is switching in, nothing is taking 2 hits from my Tornadus regardless. So I figured that it would ultimately benefit me more by being aggressive here and going straight for the Hurricane, as he decides to go for the recover, maybe thinking that I would switch out, expecting to want to save my Tornadus just because it was such a giant threat to his team. Like, realistically, I could have brought in my Ferrothorn potentially, or brought in my Drapion, I suppose, but the only issue with that is that he has the barrier up. He's going to keep being able to go for barriers, and I really do not want to deal with that. So yeah, again, more merit to me just being aggressive here, as I am able to knock out the Mega Alakazam. This is amazing because now Kingdra has been unleashed, as in comes the Greninja. I have no more use for my Ferrothorn at this point. Like, yeah, I guess I can deal with the Comfey, but I'm honestly not really that concerned about it, as he makes a good play there, gets up a third layer of spikes knowing that I wouldn't stay in, and much like earlier, this damn Snorlax can just freely come in here as he wastes his final sleep turn here as I make the aggressive play into my Tornadus. I figured that, okay, if he's not running max defense with max HP, Superpower does have a solid chance to knock him out at this range of HP. Once this Snorlax is gone, this is going to be amazing because now my Ferrothorn won't be as useless to me in this battle. So I'm going to stay and go straight for the Superpower as he lives, and then he's going to end up going for the return on me. But because I do have HP investment, even though I am a minus defense nature, we are able to live on 11%. And yes, that is 11%, not 10.9%, because as I go for the guarantee KO with knockoff, we live on 1, and this means I can still have use for my Tornadus later in this battle if it really comes down to it. As in comes the Greninja, I'm going to sack off my Pelipper. I really don't need that many turns of rain at this moment in the battle, so I can just sack it off here. Turns out that he's actually Specs Greninja, which means I can bring in my Kingdra here. I'm going to go for a modest Spec Surf in the rain. This drops, Comfey's KO'd, Landorus is KO'd, like there's just nothing he can do, honestly. As he brings in the Comfey, I can still live a Draining Kiss very easily, and then after Life Orb, he's guaranteed in range of where a Surf knocks him out. This crit didn't matter. he had 196 HP EVs, and the absolute minimum that my Surf did in the rain was 93%, and he was at 91%. So yeah, that crit didn't matter at all, honestly. As down goes Comfy, in comes his Landers, which is his final Mon. No way he's going to be able to outspeed me in the rain, and down it goes. And that is the 5-0 victory for me, and that puts our team 3-1 in the series, which means we only need to win one more battle to win this week and hopefully guarantee us a bye week in the first round of playoffs. So yeah, very quick battle. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. Hit that thumbs up button down below. Let me know what you think about weather in draft leagues, and with that being said, I will see you all tomorrow most likely. So thank you all for watching. Later, everybody.
Because my brain and heart are both tied in the knot, and this hinders me from crying a lot. This causing me to show no emotion. But when I said I cared, I wasn't joking. But I guess it's too late for me to become broken. For now, I'm living with no more pain, tears of hoping. I'm just coasting. Yeah, I said I'm coasting. No more pain, tears, hoping. For real.